good thing is that the space that we inhabit, that apparently a lot of people can't get their minds to actually just allow to be a more active part. In a way, that's what my book is about right now. Is like the space that we inhabit, the actual literal space we inhabit, and the space right outside of where what we inhabit. And you could try to project to the rest of the world, like that space is already unified, right? And apparently that's really hard for the mind to allow, right? And I don't mean having a belief like, oh yeah, it's free to be you and me. I'm unified with the universe. I mean, it's actually literally true, right? So I find that easier when it's literally true. And then what I believe about it, it's kind of like that's my distraction or not distraction. It's like, how is it not true that we're predominantly empty space? And somehow our bodies surround empty space. Because remember, not only like the space between the muscles and the bones and the space in the center of the chest and all the other spaces inside your body, but you got to remember the relative emptiness within one atom, then within is like it's way more empty space between the nucleus and the electron, right? I mean, literally we are empty space, and human beings apparently struggle with the sensation of emptiness. I mean, right now, if you choose fear about it and you think everything's broke, that's how traumatized people actually end up thinking about their own, processing their own emptiness, right? But it's like, it turns out that I hope some of you are getting glimpses of this. Like, part of what my book's trying to get at is that before you have any beliefs, you get to have whatever beliefs you want about it, right? But there's a level of experience before any of us have any beliefs, before our minds try to make sense of it. There's a level of experience that literally is universal. And you know what I've been finding in my practice over since 1991? I'm finding when I only in glimpses can allow what's actually happening to precede my mind's judgment of it. When I allow it, I'm more in love, right? It's like I'm also less likely to want to be violent. I mean, human nature, our survival has made us collide with the outer world, right? To try to survive. And that emptiness, our ability to process the emptiness that's in a universal part of our experience of our consciousness, the survival techniques driving towards survival have somehow sublimated into, think about the people that can't, at $100 billion, it's still not enough, let's say, right? Right? Like that the emptiness in our experience can literally never be fully filled, right? Because it's an inherent part of the configuration of our consciousness, right? Drugs try to fill it, right? When I saw this really bad movie one time with Russell Brand, and he was a heroin addict, and he's saying, I love being a heroin addict because as soon as I wake up from being so wasted, I know exactly what I'm going to do with the next few moments. I'm going to try to get another fix. There is no confrontation with what I'm going to do with my life. There's only the next fix, right? It's like, what? Again, ways to fill the emptiness. My son, I was with him this weekend, and I wish I could remember his name. My goodness, there's a keynote speech in a university in Western Australia. I wish I could remember his name. I asked it again last night. It's 10 minutes and it's nine insights he shares. He's a writer, a TV script writer. He wrote for a whole bunch of things that he came to America. He's a comedy writer, but it's 9 insights to pass on to kids that are graduating at the college he graduated from. It's fabulous. It's like and he's 37.9 years old. There are 9 insights and they're funny and they're painful and they're wonderful. But one of them is that stop looking for, well, there's a whole bunch of them. If Bethany, I kind of want you to go sleuthing for it because it's so freaking good. It's got a whole bunch
Already
of,
looking.
I'll find it, right? I'll find the name. But one of them is that stop looking for meaning, right? I mean, life is inherently empty, right? Inherently empty, and the search for meaning is kind of stupid. So that means you better fill it yourself, right? Like go be in love, go be enthusiastic. Another one one of his insights also is too bad that we tend to define ourselves and our coolness in terms of opposition, right? Like I don't agree with that. And that's how you define yourself. I don't agree with that. And he said, why not just be enthusiastic about the things you actually care about? Another one is he's telling these kids, don't have long-term plans. That's the stupidest thing ever. You miss the diamonds along the way. Like there's no point. And he goes, I'm a proponent of the passionate pursuit of short-term goals. Right? Like focus on what's in front of you and do it really well. Like these things that we've all learned as older people here, this guy puts in 9, 10 minutes into it, right? And it's like, holy cow, it was good. It was a good thing. So I love the getting back to what your inherent experience is, right? So as you sit here and you know you're going to try to calm your mind, one of the things that there's a few passages in my book where I'm trying to talk about all the different ways that human beings have figured out ways to process our own emptiness, right? And so, like power and dominion over others, the instinctual manifestation of our emptiness, like our minds gave us a survival advantage on the plains of Africa, but they have an inherent tendency towards destruction, right? And because it fills the emptiness a certain way. And part of my hope with my whole life is to have us be able to inhabit the own emptiness within our body, that the body's a miracle because it is the transcendence, even though it dies, because it surrounds emptiness with life, right? Like that's the only thing. Like the exception is that something biological occurred to give boundary around the massive emptiness that is part of what we are. And human beings have struggled all different ways to give meaning to emptiness, all different conceptual frameworks. And you and I get access to the same emptiness that everyone's worried about, like and talked about. So you got our United States, everyone's trying to fill. A lot of us are worn out from COVID and dread and all effed up the world is. So we get all anxious about it because we don't quite know how to have the fact that right now, as we speak, on my birthday, I'm going to get somebody in there, right? It's the same as it ever was. So as you sit up straight and tall, it's like, and I actually think when I start to allow, not just quiet down my mind, not everything's about my mind. When I just allow the sensation of what's actually here without trying to organize it into categories, I soften. How about you? Sit up straight and tall. I can actually have that sensation of what's here and be in alignment with it. I can try to use my body to become a better vehicle of this thing that's always here. And it's an experience, it's not an idea. it's literally, and so when I'm trying to connect to it at first, it kind of helps to lips together, teeth slightly apart, not clench my jaw. Helps me to soften around the temples, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, that's what was already here. If I can get my frontal cortex to go, wait, go back to the back seat. So everyone, put your hand on your forehead for a second, lightly, and allow for more of the backside of your head. Right? Right? Like let it go. We have access to unjudged experience in every moment of every day. And I'm going to try to gently lift my chest in a way that supports the access to the unjudged experience. I'm going to try to feel my sitting bones and my feet, loosen my jaw again, because I'm trying to support the unjudged experience that is shared by everything here. Literally, not an idea. I'm going to try to allow my back body to open, led by the calmness of my organs of perception, balancing my head over my neck again, so I can actually, in the words of Ram Dass, be here now. And while this story is going on, I continue to breathe in and breathe out. There's movement. There's so much disdain for the body in so many of our belief systems. And it's what keeps us alive. Good. And then release. I'm going to get my spine even more active by lifting my sternum and dropping my chin. I'm going to let it be what it already was, the center of my life force, the conduit of the happening. And again, breathing. How is it not stunning here? Miraculous. How have we missed this? Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. It's easy to miss. That's how we missed it. It's easy to miss. I'm putting my elbows on the table. I'm going to form a new base. So I'm going to start introducing shapes into my life, right? I'm going to make a triangle. So however you want to make a triangle, but my forearms are on the table, the heel of my hand. So where the tips of my elbows are and the heel of my hands are. It's a triangle, right? And I like it. Then there's also a triangle from my tailbone to out to each knee. There's another triangle there. There's a triangle between my upper arm and my torso. There's a triangle between the tip of my head and the outer rim of my outer tip of my shoulder. I'm full of triangles everywhere. I'm going to be not just where my body makes contact. I'm going to absorb the inside of the triangles, right? I'm going to lift my chest. The empty space is giving, it's receptive. It's not empty. It's not just empty. It actually feeds. That's what we practice in Shavasana. How do you let the empty spaces get supported? Now, I don't just want you to push your heels of your hands together more and feel your tailbone in relationship to your knees and to your heels. I want you to have the body and the spaces around the body as your chest fills, makes there be a little bit of fire by keeping the sternum lifted. You get to be alive. You're not inherently empty and cold like it is in outer space, right? You're on fire because you're alive. You're a burning ember. You create heat. You contain heat. You're full. Good. And then release. Right? So there's air inside your head. Let there be air in your head. What? How do you let there be air in your head? Some of us are better at it than others. I'm not looking at anyone in particular on the screen, I swear. I'm proud to be an airhead, right? So I'm going to sit here and allow there to be space between my temples, space on the inside of my mouth, space behind my eyes, space, space under your butt as you lift up if you're Angelique. There's space everywhere. In fact, I kind of like that. Everyone lift up your butt a little bit. Feel the space underneath your butt. And then what happens is when you sit down and compress your spine, that space is still there. You just aren't having it through your body as much. And then collapse it back down, crunch. Can't you see why compression is a drag? Lift up again. Compression's a freaking drag, right? It makes everything heavy and dead. So when you clench your jaw, does anyone clench their jaw in their life besides all day long? Let's like focus on collapsing, not you realizing air when you clench your jaw. Let's all do it. Let's like clench the bastard, right? Feel it. It's like, oh God, what a great way to live your freaking life, right? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double down on this energy. I'm going to let the space in my low back get compressed. And in this spot, I think I'm more likely to blame other people. This energy is less likely to take responsibility, right? All right, and I'm going to change that because that kind of sucked. Did that suck for anyone else, especially after you've been like opening? It's like, holy shit, that's nice. So I'm going back to the space. I was also about to say the space underneath Angelique's butt, but that would have been inappropriate. But this got me thinking about it, right? It's like, well, I think I'm going to have some space and maybe some fluid movement. Have you noticed that water kind of is fluid? right? That it's got this kind of, it's not just rhythm, but like water pours to places. So remember, have you forgotten the air inside your head as you're pouring your water around? Think about how much water we are. We're slosh bags, right? We're slosh bags of water. And we have to argue over whether to pollute the water. Whether it's, I mean, we have to argue about water, even though we are water. We don't think, there's enough, we don't have to worry about water. So this, one of the lessons from that guy, and we're just kind of moving around again, was, if you think that art and science are mutually exclusive, that you have to be anti-scientific to be artistic, he goes, this is one of the big, huge mistakes, right? Is that you can combine both. And that really the big problem with our society is communication. So he said, the fact that I'm going to tell you that human beings have a role. This is from 2013. Human beings have a role, and then go back over your chair, in global warming. And right now, 30% of you just bristled like it's not true. He said, this is a problem of communication. This isn't a problem of fact. Right. And then he said, and then one of the end of one of his last, and this is a heavy one, he said, the fact that most of you that are bristling for political reasons rather than truthful reasons is tragic. You're letting your politics affect the things. Science has done a lot of bad things and some remarkably important things, right? And don't let politics change our quest of truth, right? So sit up straight and tall again. Try to feel the empty space within your body and let it be housed by your body, right? Can you do it in a way that makes you want to smile? Start to feel the empty inside. Let it be lighter rather than compressed. If I clench my jaw, I'm not likely to smile, right? So I'm like, wait, I'm going to let the air in my chest and the air in my head help the top of my spine feel happy. Another line from this talk, another again, inappropriate. So I'm right on the edge of inappropriate, this guy, but he did it at a college commencement, so it can't be that bad. He goes, don't pursue happiness. Happiness are like orgasms. The more you think about it, the more likely they're going to go away. Right. And then his other line is the contented homus erectus got eaten, never passed on its genes. Don't expect to be content. What are you doing? Right? You don't get to be content here. You get to know it's possible, right? Over the back of your chair. And of course, I liked it. This guy was a philosophy major and he's got long hair and a beard. So if you knew me in my other iterations, I've gone through periods of my life of long hair and beards, right? Not this short hair crap that as you get older and become an old dad, you have to like shorten up your hair and live more by the rules, kind of. I'm having a hard time not wearing khaki pants more. It's freaking bumming me out, right? Inhale up, exhale, revolve. Thinking I gotta look like a dad more, at 59, I gotta maybe present a little bit better to the world, right? Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. I spent a lot of my time not paying attention to a lot of the rules. All right. Inhale up, take the other arm up, go the other way. So there's fire in here. This is a shavasana. Maybe I'll even do, right? So I'm going to kind of go through it now in movement, right? Remember, there's air in your head, right? But then there's kind of air everywhere. So like I'm having constant pain and gripping on this forearm all the time. It's a nerve thing, right? So I'm losing track of the air between the muscles and the bones and the ligaments, right? So I'm gonna like take a place on your body that you know is tight and just hit it a little bit in a nice way. Like I'm gonna try to remind myself where my muscles are sticking to the bone too much. I'm gonna remind myself that there's air in there. Wherever the place is, the other place I have a whole bunch of loss of air is right here under my collarbones. Try tapping right here. There's another place where a lot of us actually lose track of the fact that there's spaciousness, right? So you actually tap it, not just to loosen the muscles, but to remind you of the air and the space that the muscle is holding onto, right? And gripping because it's trying to keep you safe, right? So it's like, thank God my body's trying to keep me safe, but it lost itself along the way, right? And it's like, damn, right? So there's space in here. And now I'm going to take this space and try to connect it to the space between my sitting bones. So I'm really tight through here. It's part of, I have thoracic junction problems right through here, right? So I'm really tight through here. So I'm trying to keep this space company. First with the center of my chest, then with the space between my sitting bones, then with the space between my heels, right? And then the space underneath each shoulder and the space behind me, but I'm going to let it be air. And I'm going to breathe in with air to make there be more air in the space around me. Good. So did you know what space on you needed to tap open? I hope you do know those things, right? I hope you know where your muscles and your bones are too connected, right? So I'm going to take my legs wide because that's another place I want more space and more air, is changing the relationship between my femur bones, my knees. I need more space here, right? So, I was like, oh yeah. And then I'm gonna like change gravity, but I'm gonna pour like water, right? I'm gonna let myself pour like I'm pouring water out of a glass. So as I change gravity, I'm actually moving the water, right? And remember how much water you are. It's not just that your brain's a lot of water. Do you know how much water you have in your intestines and guts and your blood and stuff? So you literally are pouring water when you move, right? So now I'm not just getting increased circulation. That sounds like a freaking scientist, right? I'm just pouring water to different parts of my body, right? And I'm trying to let the water be not choppy. I'm trying to use rhythm, like putting your hand through water, right? Gently. I'm trying to use rhythm, right? And I'm not forgetting the air inside my head, the air inside my chest, right? As I move the water. Now I'm gonna remember the fire, air, water, fire, ember in the center of my chest, right? It's like, wait, I'm gonna remember, and then I'm gonna let it go skyward. So my chest, that fire in my chest, it's gonna go like this out into space, but I'm trying to move with the air, right? So these are all movements where I'm trying to get air, water, fire, and without any grounding. Like if I tried to do this, say I'm holding my wheelchair here, I'm holding my footrest, right? If I tried to do this in air without earth, without as much earth, if I did it off balance, because when I'm off balance, I lose the earth, I don't nearly get the other elements to be part of my movement. So the earth, the air, the water of the movement, right? And the fire of being alive, all is part of my movement. Earth, gotta open everything with air, flow with the water, warm it with my fire, right? And just so you know, this already happens in every moment of every day. It's the same as it ever was. Your air, your water, your fire, and the earth are combining all the time, but your mind makes the world have less in it because it worries about elections and stuff, right? Because all of a sudden I forget to have everything else, right? Because I get fixated on the story that my mind makes, because my mind's coming back to center now. My mind's just a little bit scared of what's truly given. Straighten Jennifer's head, Lita. Yeah. Give her support on that shoulder. Yeah. Let her feel that freedom that comes from aligned air. Right. So I'm back to the grounding, the air. How do you stay with water? Well, your breath, by the way, your breath is exchanging water all the time, right? Your lungs are really moist. So you're exchanging water with the space around you all the time. So you keep the water and hopefully your skin's hydrated and all this stuff. But then you keep the fire in the center of your chest. And you pause and you practice being grateful with the gift that your body gives you. It keeps you alive. Good. And then release. So now, I don't know if you can cross your legs, but I'm gonna lift one leg up and cross it over, right? So some of you should have like another chair in your practice and put your legs up on chairs, right? So I'm gonna change my base. So even if it just meant that you cross your legs over, I want you to change your base, right? So now I've got more air over here, I've got less connection, right? Now I've got to get earth down the straight leg, right? So I know that rather than trying to get more earth on the outside of the down leg thigh, right? Or the one that's not crossed over, I have to get it on the inside edge, right? So I'm gonna like feel both sitting bones and make sure I'm pressing down through the leg that's still touching the floor. But then I'm gonna squeeze my calf a little bit. And I'm gonna bring the muscle towards the bone to show me how to lift my chest. So if your legs was just crossed, right, you can still do the same thing. You gotta let there be difference and find a way to bring the muscle to the bone by squeezing it and try to receive it in the center of your chest. Right. So I'm doing it this way. I'm crossing, I'm making sure my midline is connected, even though I'm asymmetrical here, right? But I'm making sure my midline is informing the lift in my chest, even though my body position, and I'm reminding myself of the bone in my shin so I can get my chest to let there be more air and breathe. Good. And then I'm gonna do a little twist, right? So in a way we're doing, it doesn't matter what we're doing. All right, so I'm taking the outside of my, this way, right? So I'm taking, so if your legs were just crossed, I want you to twist towards the leg that's crossed over, right? And I'm gonna like use all this. I'm even grabbing stuff because I want earth here, right? And remember, I don't want to just use my will, because if you use too much will, in my opinion, you lose both air and water in your pose, right? So I'm grabbing my chair, my armrest here, but I'm making sure this is hitting this, right? But I'm making sure my will to twist doesn't stop the air in my head, the air in my chest, and the fire in my chest. And the water, I don't try to squeeze. Squeezing water doesn't work that great, right? So I'm inhaling, lifting up, exhale, revolving. I'm trying to keep all the elements, the four elements, right, happening in this pose. Good, and then release. So what happens, one of the things that asanas do, right, is they keep changing the variables, but you have to keep seeing in today the four elements, right? So I'm switching up my base because I'm making it so air is more open to me. Water's a little bit confusing, earth's a little bit confusing. I want to get those in place so when the fire of my chest can fill the whole body. So I'm sitting here and I'm going through knowing that because I'm not as grounded, my earth has been changed here, my base has been changed here. I've got to go down the inside of the down leg. And I'm going to rock back and forth a little bit. So I use the pouring of the water to help me find my down leg because I don't feel my down leg like all of you. So I have to do little things to remind myself of where the midline is. So I'm going to ground that down from my inner groin to inner knee, inner heel. Right. And now remember we did on the other side. I'm going to like find the bone here again because I've got kind of a lot more air, which I have to feel as freedom here. Right. And it's asymmetrical. I want the water to pour through everything, but I don't want to lose the earth. So I'm taking some time to squeeze my calf muscle into my bone, trying to catch that in my chest, right? Catching that in my chest. And when I get it to ring ding a ding, right? I can't help but smile because it kind of makes me feel happy. to feel everything. Good. And then I'm going to now again turn this into a twist, right? So my water is starting to pour, right? So I'm grabbing my chair, and here on this side, it's different. I got to grab my wheel, not my armrest, right? And I'm figuring out in this kind of confusing position if my mind thinks about it too much. But if I stay simple and keep the earth, let there be more air, right? Have the new position pour my water different places. Lift the fire through my spine. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. But I'm I'm opening with air, I'm pouring water, I'm grounding, making the basin with the earth, and I'm making sure the fire is warming the whole, all the other things. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Good, and then come back to center. Put your legs straight down again. So ask yourself if you were forced. So one of the things that instead of thinking about the elements as literal, which I think you can, right? But if you were to think about them as the yogis using the things they had at hand, those yogis from a few thousand years ago, less informed by science, right? Like if you were to want to make using those as metaphors, but trying to describe qualitative differences in sensation within your body, right? So just for a second, try to feel air again. Remember, they're trying to label to you different opportunities, different qualities of sensation. So I was saying things like air inside my head, soften your jaw, all these things that get going quiet, right? And some people are wired more for air. I think I don't know what these are, but like, isn't that Vata? I'm not even sure what that stuff is. But like, so I'm going to feel the air, and I'm pretty sure I kind of know the grounding of earth, right? I can kind of see what they're trying to say there. So I'm trying to feel it through my elbows and by leaning forward. I'm like going, yeah, I could kind of see if I was forced into having there be a quality of sensation that was corresponding to earth and air. I'm pretty sure that in order to really feel air, I'm going to have to feel balanced, right? So I got earth and air. And this idea of being fluid, rhythm, kind of like water, moving, gently moving. Like rhythm can kind of show me how to pour my water, but I can kind of get that there's this smooth movement coming from the water. And then I'm pretty sure everyone on this call knows the sensation of being alive and having fire, right? So like take a moment and try to be all of those elements. So, and I don't necessarily want you to do this wrong because we're nearing the end of class, but I'm going to do it wrong. So it's not just when I clench my jaw, I don't just collapse air, right? I deaden my fire. Can you tell that that would like be a clamp, right, on it? And then it gets static, so the water doesn't move smoothly. But my mind gets the sensation of earth if I stress out a part of my body. that's not the earth I want, right? So I'm going to sit here again and try to have all those different sensations. So one of the places where I deaden is in my neck, I can tell. Can you tell where you do? So there's Bill's cat is deciding that it's a party of elements in Bill's face, right? So I'm just sitting there going like, wait, see now when I start to like, I could just tell you, I lost the air between the skin on my forehead and my skull. I just caught myself totally smushing that shit together, right? It's like, wait, there's so many places that I'm not allowing. Do you forget that there's a party on your insides? Like all this party of these elements is going on the whole time. I forget. I don't think you should use yoga to bypass the stresses of your life, right? So I'm going to do a version of dog pose, like, because I can tell I want to make my spine more animated, right? I don't think, and I don't like when people use yoga to bypass all the crap that's in the world, right? Right. But I certainly don't need to forget it, that all these elements are happening all the time. So I'm lengthening my spine, hitting down through my sitting bones, extending out through the top of my head, broadening across my collarbones, making sure the inside edge of my index mound is actually pushing into the table. Oh, I can feel where my fascia is tight on one side of my spine. I can feel that. It's okay. So to help that space that's really stuck on the far side of my scoliosis, I'm gonna have more space in my opposite arm. And I'm gonna let the water and the air even out my muscles. And I'm gonna breathe. Right? And then come back to my triangle, to the earth, to the air, right? To the pouring of my water, right? I'm going to ignite through the center of my chest. And I'm going to energy exchange with what's around me with breathing. Going to change my water. I give it with every exhale, right? That's why when you blow on a window, fog goes on the window. It's because you're blowing water, right? You actually blow water, not just air. Skin gets dry because it's letting water out. All this is happening. And it's a miracle given to me, revealed to me by my body. And believe me, my body struggles. I don't know about yours. And all the while it's struggling, it's laying it bare for me to realize. It's so curious to me why the mind, through a whole bunch of belief systems, but the mind in general, in the pursuit of pureness, purity, casts aspersions at the body. I choose it not. I refuse. I am not going to self loathe what I am. I'm a vulnerable body. I'm a resilient body. And it gives me life. Happy birthday to my body. It got me here. Unbelievable what my body has given me. So now I'm going to let my body be supported by my chair. I'm going to go into Shavasana and let the empty spaces nourish. When I head back into Shavasana, I'm going to try to open the air of my body, like open between the muscles and the bones, right? Try to open, right? But I'm going to also, as I let the support in, I'm going to fall out like water. I'm going to let the chair hold me like the earth. I'm going to let my air, let the water, and in that place, my fire's going to keep me alive. So it's easier to do this when you're lying down. But the Shavasana I heard from my yoga teacher 30 years ago was let your limbs be like earth, grounded, let them fall to the ground. Let your torso, your intestines, where your heart is, let your abdomen, torso be like water. Acknowledge that it's fluid. Fluid is moving through you all the time. So your limbs are like earth. Your torso is water. There's an ember warm in your chest. You are alive. And there's air in your head. All of this gets held up and supported by your chair. Feel your breath. Don't change it. Thank your body. Thank it again. It keeps you alive. Honor the things that you have to consume, the death that you have to consume through food in order to keep it alive, right? Honor all the things you have to take from here in order to have fire. It's a thing, right? It's part of being expansive. All right, everybody. There's a weird class for you. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right. Hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows the spirit in you.